In this section, we are dealing with environmental contaminants that causes serious harm to the environment. So what is environmental contamination? Environmental contamination is the process of contaminating soil, water or atmosphere by discharge of harmful substances. So there are various types of environmental contaminants. It can be air contaminants, water contaminants or agriculture contaminants like pesticides. So let's see each one in detail. Air contamination or air pollution. It refers to any physical, chemical or biological changes in the air, or it is a contamination of the air by harmful gases, dust and smoke which affect plants, animals and humans drastically. Now, what are the causes of this air contamination? It may be by the burning of the fossil fuel, it may be from the exhaust of the automobile, it may be the smoke or the air which is coming out of the factories or industries. Then various agricultural activities can also cause air contamination or air pollution. Then the mining activities and various domestic sources can also act as a source of air contamination. This air contamination or air contaminant, it will be entering the body predominantly through the lung. So some of the particles will be absorbed into the blood, some may be retained in the lung or some may be eliminated by the lung. Now, those particles, if the particle size is greater than 5 micrometer, it is deposited in the upper airway. And if the particle size is 1 to 5 micrometer, it is deposited in the terminal airways or alveoli. While the particle size of less than 1 micrometer, it can reach the alveolar zone of lung and it can readily be absorbed. So these type of air contamination like primary contaminants or secondary contaminants will be there, and the primary contaminants are those air contaminants which can directly produce, and these primary contaminants are released in the atmosphere by natural and man-made sources. For example, the ash which is coming out while there is a volcanic eruption, it's a primary contaminant. The carbon monoxide from the motor vehicle exhaust, then the metal oxide, all these, then the pesticide, these are all the primary contaminants, while secondary contaminants is nothing but it is formed in the air when the primary contaminants interact with each other. For example, peroxyacetyl nitrate or ozone. The sum of the contaminants may be both primary or secondary. Now, when we see that the particles of this air contaminant, when it gets its deposition in the lungs, what is the adverse effect? Usually the adverse effects are chronic in nature, and the common one is the common respiratory diseases. The chronic respiratory diseases like chronic bronchitis, obstructive ventilatory diseases, emphysema, bronchial asthma, and even the lung cancer. Now, the accidental release of some specific chemicals may become fatal. For example, the chemicals like ammonia, chlorine, when it is accidentally, it can cause contamination of the air pollution, and it can cause that air when exhaled or when inhaled by the humans, it can cause many of the lung disorders. You may be also aware of the poisonous gas which has been released during the poisonous gas, that is the methyl isocyanate, which has been released, and it has caused the Bhopal tragedy. That means that the air pollution is able to harm the humans in such a way that it can lead to the death of the animal. So mostly the adverse effect of air pollution, it is mostly respiratory diseases, and it may become fatal when some specific chemicals are emitted. Now the next type of the environmental contamination is nothing but the water pollution. So the water contaminants, they can act as a source of toxicity and a source of diseases to human beings as well as animals. And as far as the water contaminants is concerned, it can cause contamination of food chain. There are two sources of water contaminants, that is, it may be of point source or it may be of non-point source. Example for the point source: the untreated discharges of sewages, industrial units, thermal plants, or oil spill. They are the point sources of water contamination. While the non-point sources, it is delivering the pollutant indirectly through various environmental changes. For example, the fertilizers or pesticides in a field which is carried into stream by air, by rain. So that is a source of water contamination. Now, the water contaminants may be physical, biological, or chemical, and the chemical may be organic or inorganic. Physical contaminants like mud, ash, animal and human waste. Biological contaminants like bacteria, virus, parasites. It can all cause contamination of water, thereby causing the disease in humans. Chemical contaminants like organic contaminants like PCB as well as the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, while inorganic contaminants like nonmetals, nitrates or nitrites. So these are the various types of water contaminants. Now the third type of environmental contaminant is nothing but agriculture contaminant. One such agriculture contaminant is the pesticide. So what are these pesticides? The pesticides are the group of heterogeneous substances which are mostly used for preventing, destroying or repelling the pests. There are various types of pesticides like insecticides are the herbicides, fungicides, fumigants as well as rodenticides. But these various types of pesticides can act as a source of contamination for the environment, causing harmful environmental issues. So what are the major sources of toxicity which has been caused by these pesticides? It may be because by the accidental ingestion of the pesticide. Now, suicides or homicides or malicious poisoning, that accidental killing, the pesticide has been used for this. Then, in the case of animals, the consumption of freshly sprayed crops, it is a source of toxicity of the pesticide. The spillage of insecticide on the food can act as a source of toxicity for the human. Consumption of dairy products from intoxicated animals, it can act as a source of pesticide toxicity in humans. The residues in agriculture products. Then occupational poisoning is one of the major things as far as the humans is concerned. Those workers who is working in the industry which is dealing with the pesticide, the manufacture of pesticide, they are more exposed to such type of pesticide and it may act as a source of poison for them. Then environmental pollution by pesticides in the way of water contamination by the sweepage of these pesticides or fertilizer from another area to the next area by rain. Now, secondary poison in predator animals. So these all things can act as a source of toxicity as far as the pesticide is concerned. So thank you.